Hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we are going to be making these three tiny little beanies, and these little guys are going to be going to Bundles for Babies. And Bundles for Babies, if you've never heard of them, is an organization that makes little bundles. So they put little baby hats and they put tiny little blankets, and these are delivered to hospitals so that they can distribute to the families that have lost their infants. And these are infants that are born between the 18th and 20th week gestation period. So they're little preemie babies, so that's why they are really tiny little hats and really tiny little blankets. So I'm going to be showing you how to make these three different patterns, where you'll have a beginner, an intermediate, and advanced pattern that you can use. So to find out more information about this organization, about how you can help, please check out the description below. I've posted a link to their website. And yeah, so let's get started. So we're going to be working on this purple beanie, which is the beginner beanie. To start that, we're just going to leave a long tail of yarn. And then we're going to wrap the yarn around our fingers. And this is going to be so that we can make a slip knot. And we're going to insert the hook into the loop, and then we're just going to pull a loop of yarn through, and we're going to tighten it up. So that was a slip knot. So now we're going to be making some chains, and you don't require a lot of chains for this. It's going to be 20 chains. So to make a chain, you wrap the yarn around your crochet hook and you pull it through the yarn that you already had on your loop, so where the slip knot was. So we just yarn over and pull that through the loop. So I'll just keep making a couple of more chains until I reach my 20th chain, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now that I've chained 20, we're going to just make sure that this is all facing the same way, so we don't want it to twist up at all. So we just run our finger through it and get to the very first chain that we made. So we're going to insert our hook into that very first chain, and we're going to yarn over and pull it through those two loops. So now that we've made a circle, we're going to be working around with this circle. So we're going to make a chain of one. So we make one single chain, and then I'm going to turn these so that I can see the braided part, because it makes it easier to see the stitch. So we're going to skip that first one right next to the chain, and then we're going to go into the second one. See, we're just going to insert our hook, and we're going to have the two loops, see? And if you need to tighten it, here, this is how you can pull and tighten the yarn with your index finger on your other hand, and that kind of helps keep the tension in your project. So I'm going to show you here again. We're going to go into the stitch right next to it. So let's see if you can see it. There we go. And we're going to insert our hook, and then we're just going to pull some yarn through, and we're going to have those two loops on our hook, and we're just going to yarn over again and pull it through the other remaining two loops. So we'll do this again so that you can see. So I insert my hook, and then I pull some yarn through, and then I just yarn over and pull through again. So I'll just keep crocheting these, and that way you can just watch as I crochet a single crochet into each of the chain spaces. So that's what this is called. So this is just a single crochet, and we're going to make one in every single one of the chain spaces that we made. So I'm reaching the end here. See, I've got one last little stitch, and we've made a single crochet in every one of our chain spaces. And you see we've got one last little stitch left before it opens up to the single crochets that we had made. So I'm just going to insert my hook, and we're going to make one last single crochet. Now we're going to make what is called a slip stitch. So this tiny one, we're going to skip this one. We're going to go into this next stitch, which is the very first single crochet that we made at the beginning of our row. So we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to make a slip stitch. So you just grab yarn, and instead of grabbing more yarn over like we would for the single crochet, you just pull that yarn through both stitches. And that is the end of our first row. So for our second row, we're going to chain 1, and I'm going to use this little marker. This just came from some of, it was like a little clothing tag that was on one of a shirt or something I got. You can use a bobby pin or another piece of yarn. And then we're just going to mark where our chain 1 is. So I'm just going to make the next single crochet to make it a lot easier to see. Because as you keep working this, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss where the row begins. And we kind of need to count a certain amount of rows for this. So I'll make a couple of stitches here. And I'll go back to my chain 1. That way it's easier for everyone to see what I'm doing. So here's my chain 1, and I'm just going to insert my little marker there. And that way I know where the beginning of the row is. So now I'm just going to single crochet like we did in the previous row in every single one of the stitches until I get to my marker. So now that I've reached my marker, I've got one last single crochet to make, and I will have reached the marker. So let's go ahead and remove our little marker, and that's going to be that chain 1 that we're going to skip. Always skip that chain 1 stitch or you're going to make your project wider. So I moved on to the next stitch and just made a slip stitch. So now I chain 1 and start the whole thing over again. So make a single crochet in each one of the stitches until I meet up with it again. We're going to make a total of 18 rows of this. So with 18 rows, that leaves us with about 3 inches. And now we can start working on our brim. So for our brim, what we're going to do is work what is called a double crochet. So to start our row of double crochets, we need to make a chain of 2 stitches. And now we're going to start in this next stitch, but we're going to yarn over. So this is called a yarn over. And now we insert our hook into our stitch, and we're going to pull some yarn through. So we're going to have these 3 loops on our hook now, and we're just going to yarn over again and pull through the first loop, and then through the second loop. And then what we're going to do is we have to yarn over again and pull through the 2 remaining loops. So that is a double crochet. So we're going to make a double crochet in every one of the stitches of this row. Okay, so I have reached the end, and see how I've got my last stitch left. So I'll just make my last double crochet, and then I'll show you how to join the row. So you see this chain we have right here? This topmost stitch is where we're going to insert our hook. So we're just going to insert our hook right here, and that's where we're going to make our slip stitch. So remember, we just pull yarn through both of our stitches. So now we're going to make one more row of double crochets. Now this one is a little bit different. So what we're going to do is work with what's called the posts. So it's this little thing right here. So we're just going to insert our hook, and we're going to push the post in front of the hook. And then we just complete our double crochet. So I will make a whole bunch more, don't worry. So that way you can see what I'm doing. So this one's a front post double crochet. Then we're going to make a back post double crochet. So we're going to go through the back right here, and we're going to push this next post backwards. So see how we've pushed it back? And now we're going to go ahead and finish our double crochet. So remember that for a double crochet, we have to yarn over first, and then we insert our hook. So we'll do this one. This next one's a front post one. So yarn over, and then we're going to push the post forward. And then we pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, and the next one we yarn over, push the post back, and then we grab some more yarn and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're just going to be alternating between a front post double crochet and a back post double crochet till we get all the way around. So I'm at the end, and I'll show you my last one here, which I've got a front post double crochet, and we are finished with our row. So I'll just go up to this very first stitch right here like we did in the previous row and just make my slip stitch. Now we chain 2, and this is going to be our very last row. So for all of these that are raised, we're going to make a front post double crochet, So we'll push that one further forward, and this one that's towards the back, we're just going to push it back again. This row is going to be a lot easier than the previous row because you already have the framework set up for it. So you have all your raised crochets, which tells you where your front post crochet goes, and then the ones that are pushed towards the back is going to be your back post crochet. So we'll just work our way around, and this is what's going to give it the look of a brim, like that nice little ribbed look. That's what we're creating with these stitches. So I'll keep working here until I get to the end. So we're at the end, and I just have my very last front post double crochet to finish. And here is that top little stitch, and we'll slip stitch right in here, and we are done. So now what we're going to do is you're going to want to leave a little bit of a tail and then just cut it, because that's what we're going to be knotting up, and then we're going to sew it in so that our beanie doesn't become unraveled at any point. So I'll just pull it through like a slip stitch and tighten this up, and I will show you how to stitch that in later. So this is one side of our beanie, and here's the inside of it. So I like this inside part. I think it's a lot neater than what we were just crocheting, so this is what I want to be on the outside of my beanie. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it inside out again, and then I'm going to show you how to stitch up this top part. So we're going to need a yarn needle or a tapestry needle. I prefer to use a tapestry needle because it just makes it easier to hide the tail end of your yarn, and a tapestry needle is just thinner. So just gonna go ahead and thread this, and then we're just going to insert our needle over here and just give it a couple of stitches. So you don't want your stitches to be too close to each other because we're going to tighten this, and that's what's going to close the beanie at the top. So we'll just make a couple of stitches up here. Let's see. There we go. See, and as I tighten it, it closes the beanie. So I'll just finish making a couple more stitches, and we will close it up and add the pom-pom in a little while. Okay, so now that we are done, I'm going to make sure that this is as tight as I can make it, and we're going to make a knot. So I'm just going to go ahead and knot up my yarn so that it won't become unraveled at any point. There we go, and I'll make a second knot. And all of this extra leftover yarn that we have, we're going to use it to secure the pom-pom at the end. So I'm just going to show you how to make all of these beanies, and then I'll show you how to make a pom-pom. And then you just do the same. You're just going to stitch the pom-pom. See, we're going to pull this through here. That way you can see where we're going to stitch it. So just make sure that you get your needle and your yarn through the top and flip your beanie, I guess, right side out. There we go. Right side out. And then we've got our little brim, and with this leftover yarn, like I said, you're going to use it to attach your pom-pom. So you'll just sew it on. And that is our beginner beanie. So we've got our little brim, and you can fold it up if you need to or if you want to. And that's it. So now for this next tutorial, this is the intermediate beanie. And for this one, I'm just going to move a little bit quicker. So we're going to start with our slip knot, and then we're going to make a chain also of 20. So I'll just start chaining here, and I'll see you when I've got my 20 chains. So now that I've finished my chain, I'm just going to make sure that it's not all twisted up, and I'm going to insert my hook into the very first stitch, and I will just pull some yarn through and close up our circle. So we're going to be making a chain 2. So I'm trying to move that one. Here we go. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make, here we go, right in, not in this one right here, right in this next one. So we skip the very, very first stitch. So in this next one, we're going to make, it's half of a puff stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice. So I'll do it a little bit slower here in this next one so I can show you. And then, see, in this next stitch, so it's yarn over, insert our hook, and then pull yarn through, yarn over, insert a hook, pull yarn through, and then we close out the stitch. So we're just going to yarn over through all the loops. There we go, and we close it out. And in the next one, we do the same. So we're going to do a half puff stitch in every single one of the stitches of this row. So in the one that I did before this, see how I'm just going through, see I keep wanting to close it out. It's just force of habit like I do with the puff stitch. So you don't want to close it out. You just want to pull through all of these loops and move on to the next one. I did it in the one before that, and it's only slightly noticeable, but I'll see if you can see it as I work along. But I'll keep working my way around, and I will see you when I finish the row. Okay, so now we're at the end, so I just have one last half puff stitch to make here. So I'll just yarn over one more time. There we go, pull through all of them, and we're done. Okay, so I'm not going to close it out, I'm just going to pull through all of those loops, and I'm just going to close out the row by going in and slip stitching here at the top of this chain. So just pull yarn through and slip stitch through. So that is our first row. This next row is super easy. So starting in the very next stitch, we're just going to single crochet all the way around. So I will keep doing this, and I'll see you here in a second. Worked my way around this whole row, and that was a single crochet in every one of the stitches, and I'll just make my slip stitch and finish off this row. And then we chain 2 and we start the next row, and the next row is just the half puff stitches, so it's the same one that we did, not this past row but the row before that. So it's the one that we yarn over twice and then we just pull through all the loops. So make a half puff stitch in every single one of the stitches for this row. So I've worked my way around, and I've got my last 2 remaining puff stitches, and that will be the end of this row. So for this hat, we're going to need a total of 6 rows of this puff stitch. So here, let me finish the row real quick, and we'll just insert our hook here at the very top of the chain. There we go. I keep getting all of the stitches for some reason instead of just the top 2. There we go. So now I can slip stitch. So I'm going to make my row single crochet, so it's chain 1, single crochet. Like I was saying, it was going to be 6 rows of the puff stitches, and then just make sure that between each of the rows you make a row of single crochets. So you should end, so you'll have your 6th row of puff stitches, you're going to end on a row of single crochets. So I'll keep working this through until I get the length I need. Alright, so I finished all of my rows, and then I did my last row of single crochets, and now we're working the brim. So for the brim, you chain 2, and you make a double crochet in each one of the stitches for this row. So just double crochet 1 in every single one of the stitches. So my first row of double crochets is done, and for my second row, we chain 2, and we're going to do a front post double crochet, and now a back post double crochet, and we're just going to keep alternating this whole row. So my next one is a front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet until we work our way around, and then we get to the other end of the row. Alright, so I'm here at the end, and I'll just finish with my back post double crochet, and I'll join the row by making a slip stitch here at the top of this chain. Alright, so we have one more row left, and we're going to be chaining 2, and we're going to work the same way that we did last row, but for every front post double crochet we're going to make another front post double crochet. So here's my front post, and then this one's pushed back, so it's going to be a back post, and we've got a front post and back post, and so on and so forth until we get to the very end, and this is going to be the last row that we're doing for this beanie. So I'll just keep working these until I work my way around. So now that I've got my very last back post double crochet left, and then we are going to be done with the crochet portion of this beanie. So I'll just insert my hook here at the top, slip stitch, and we're just going to cut our yarn. Make sure to leave a long enough tail so that you can sew it in or weave it in, however you want to call it. So there we go. Get that nice and tight. Great. So now we're going to go to the top of our beanie. Here we go. We've got a really long tail that we left. Make sure that you leave a long tail because that's what we're going to use to attach our pom-pom. And if you didn't, that's okay. You can just grab more yarn and just attach it. So I'm just going to thread my tapestry needle. And I'm going to do the same thing I did for the last beanie, and I'm just going to give it a couple of stitches every couple of stitches. I know that sounds confusing, but it's just going to be so that when we pull it, it tightens up the top. So I don't need to make a stitch in every single one of the stitches. I can just sew a couple of pieces here and there. So I'll just keep doing this, and then we'll tighten it here in a minute and close off our beanie. Alright, so I've got my last stitch here, and I'm just going to tighten it. And there we go. We have closed off our beanie. So now I just have to make a knot up here. And then I'll make a second knot just to be extra sure that it's going to stay secure. And a third one, why not? There we go. Okay. And I'm just going to get my yarn and my needle to go through so that I can flip my beanie right side out. There we go. And now with this yarn that we've pulled out, that's what we're going to fasten our pom-pom with. So this beanie is done. So for our last crochet beanie, and this is for advanced crocheters, just be sure to leave a really long tail. We're going to move through this one fairly quickly, so we just start with our slip knot, and this one requires a chain of 16 because this one is a cabled pattern, and we're going to be having to count here in a couple of rows. So just start with a chain of 16 and then join the front end of your chain with this back end. Just remember not to let it get tangled or twist up or anything. So we'll just slip stitch through and finish off our circle. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, and we're going to start with double crochets. So we're just going to double crochet 1 stitch in every single one of the stitches for this row. So I'll get to working on that, and I will see you when I work my way around. So that's 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I've reached the end, and I'm going to be making a slip stitch, and that way I can join my row. Now this next one, I'm going to chain 3 because we're going to work the next 2 posts are going to be front post triple crochets. So we've got the first one and the second one, and now we're going to make a double crochet in the stitch, not on the post, in the stitch. So it's 1 double crochet, and now we're going to start our cable. So for that, we're going to skip this post, and we're going to work on the next couple posts. So skip 1 in the next post, we're going to triple crochet. So it's a front post triple crochet, and the one after that, also a front post triple crochet. And now we're going to go back to the stitch or to the post that we skipped, and we're going to front post triple crochet that as well. So I'll go ahead and make that. Alright, there we go. And we're going to go into the stitch, not the post, and we're going to make a double crochet. So while I was filming this, I didn't realize I made the next 2 as double crochets. They're going to be front post triple crochets, like the ones that we did at the very beginning. And this is the start of the same pattern. So 2 front post triple crochets, a double crochet in the stitch, and then we start our cable. So I've worked my way around using that exact pattern, and I'm just going to join, there we go, my row. And now I chain 1, and I'm just going to single crochet in every single one of the stitches all the way around. So now that I've worked my way around, we're going to be working with the cables again. So I'm just going to chain 2, and I'm going to start with my triple front post crochet. So here's the first one, and we're going right into the post. So use the post that's what, 2 rows that we made 2 rows ago, and then double crochet into the next stitch, and now we're going to do our cable. So we're going to do the same like we did the last time. We're going to skip the very first one. So this middle one, which is the second one, see it's hidden kind of back here, just push it out with your finger, and you're going to make a front post triple crochet. It does get a lot easier as you make more rows, so it just becomes a lot easier to see. And now we're going to go back to the one that we skipped, which is this one kind of hidden down here, and we front post triple crochet that. And now we have our double crochet in the stitch. Okay, there we go. And then we start over again. So here is our triple front post, or our front post triple crochet, and we make our second one, and then just keep working this pattern the same way. So we're going to work these cabled stitches and then a row of single crochets, and then this row of cabled again, and we're going to do this until our project is 3 inches long. So just keep working this, and then I'll show you how to make the brim. So now that I've finished, I've made 3 inches of this project, and I'm just going to start my very first row of the brim in double crochets. So that's a double crochet in every one of the stitches. So I'll work my way around, and we'll move on to the second and third row for the brim. So now that I've worked my way around, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work alternating front and back post double crochets. So this first one I'm going to start with is just a front post double crochet, and then the next one is a back post double crochet, and so forth until we make our way around. Alright, so for this next and final row, I'm just going to close this up while I'm telling you about it. We're just going to continue doing the front and back post alternating. So for this front post one, we double crochet a front post, and this other one is our back post double crochet, so we make a back post double crochet, and then we make a front post double crochet, and we're just going to keep going, and this is the last row for our beanie. So you know the drill. You get to the end, cut it, knot it, weave in the ends, and we're done. Now that I've finished the actual crochet part of the beanie, I'm just going to sew the top part of it. So for this, I'm just going to use my tapestry needle, and I'm going to close off the beanie like I closed off the other 2 beanies. So in case you didn't watch that part, I'm just going to thread my tapestry needle, and then I prefer this one to a yarning needle, because I think it's just a lot easier to make it go through the yarn, or to sew through the yarn. So this one, we're going to have to flip it inside out to close it. So I'm just going to flip it here, and then get my yarn through. And you're just going to sew a couple of stitches every couple of crocheted stitches, so that we can close the beanie. So if I can get there we go. That took longer than expected. Okay, and I will just give it a couple stitches here, and that way I can close it enough so that when I tighten it, it will completely close the beanie. And then when you're done with all of this, just attach the pom-pom, and you will be done. We'll flip it back out, right side out, and then, attach the pom-pom. And that's why we left the really long tail, so that we can attach the pom-pom with this end. And there you go. These were our 3 beanies. Don't forget to check out that website, and I'll put the link in the description below, and that was for Bundles for Babies. If you have any questions or any comments about this video tutorial, please be sure to leave them down below. Subscribe if there's more content like this that you want to see. Give it a like if you liked this video and you want to see more videos like this. And thanks for watching. And also, you can follow us on Instagram too, and we are at mode.bespoke. Thanks.